Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? I am pumped. I'm excited to be back because we just came off of what was a great state of play. You know, so many of these state of plays I feel like we all come away from and we're like, oh, there might have been a cool game or two, but, it was a little bit disappointing or whatever. What a great state of play that was. Now, I can understand if you were looking for first-party content, maybe it wasn't the most, maybe you were hurting not seeing like God of War Ragnarok and stuff, but they warned you beforehand. This was third-party focused. This was PSVR2 focused. And for that, man, did it deliver, in my opinion. Absolutely loved it. So I'm riding a bit of a high right now, coming off that great state of play. And we've got some great stuff to talk about today. So what was some of the big games that were shown there? Of course, Final Fantasy 16 got shown again, which we've waited forever to see. Street Fighter 6 got shown, and boy, does it look good. Street Fighter 6 looks excellent. Resident Evil 4 Remake was announced. We saw updates on Stray. That game's season looks very cool. Call of the Mountain for PlayStation VR. Really a whole bunch of really cool stuff that got announced there. So we can talk about that, what we think about these games, how they're going to do, how they're going to sell, all of that stuff, excitement, etc., etc. We found out the PlayStation 5 has sold 20 million units lifetime. It has crossed that 20 million number. Still selling great, but it is a little bit behind PlayStation 4 launch line. It's tracking about 3 months behind PlayStation 4 due to shortages, as we all know. So we can talk about that if you want to, or we can talk about anything you want. Any questions, any topics you want to talk about, start filling up that chat. So if this is your first time ever as part of the Benji-Sales live chat, basically this is a show, it's a stream, it's 100% driven by you. Your comments, your questions, you just drop them down into chat and we break down the latest headlines in the video game industry. There's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's a free method. Type a question, whatever you want, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can per chat. If you want to guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that's going to be the super chat option. Type a donation, whatever you want. It pops up into my super chats, and I get to super chats immediately. Don't feel pressured or obligated or anything like that to donate into chat. It's just a way to help support me and the channel and guarantee that I get to your question. All right, I'm trying to think if there's any housekeeping notes off the top. I don't think so. I think my mic's sounding good. I'm not seeing anybody freaking out yelling in the chat that I'm blowing your eardrums out. So I think we're good to go. I think we're good to start rocking, everyone. I'm really excited today. I'm really excited for today's chat. So let's get going. I think we have a couple super chats already to kick us off the top. We got Split End 89. What is up, Split End? Best mod in the business, dropping a 2 down into the super chat. Thanks so much, buddy. Favorite state of play announcement. This for me is pretty tough because, like I said, this was actually a very good state of play. A lot of these, even if there's an announcement or two I step away from the state of play a little bit underwhelmed. This one, man, I really enjoyed it. There was just so many games that really targeted, stuff I'm looking forward to. Here's what I'll say. I'll give it a bit of a two-part answer. So I think the game that showed the best, whenever I watched it, I was like, wow, this is just, and this isn't going to be for everyone, but for me, it really hit for me. I think Callisto Protocol had the best trailer. But I'm a huge horror fan, right? If you're not a horror game fan, I can easily see not being as attached to it as I was. But I was really impressed with Callisto Protocol. That game looks amazing. It truly looks like the spiritual successor to Dead Space I was hoping it would be. So I would say that was my favorite trailer that was there, though there was many that I liked. I would say my biggest surprise was Street Fighter 6. Dude, this game looks sick. And I wasn't a very big fan of Street Fighter 5. Now, I bought Street Fighter 5 at launch, and as everyone knows, Street Fighter 5 at launch was very rough, and I actually never went back to that game. So I know it really improved over time, but I got so burned during launch when Street Fighter 5 came out that I'll be honest, I wasn't feeling the hype too much for Street Fighter 6. I was like, hopefully it's cool, maybe if it's really great I'll pick it up, but I wasn't ultra hyped for Street Fighter 6. But man, I thought what they showed looked good. Sounds like it's going to have a big single player component, which is very good because as we all know, Street Fighter 5 launched with basically no single player. It was essentially just an online game. There was barely any single-player content in it. Capcom saying this is going to have a bunch of single-player stuff. I thought the visuals looked amazing. The fighters look amazing. So Street Fighter 6 was my biggest surprise in terms of like expectations to what it actually looked like. So those were the two that stood out. But I mean, Final Fantasy 16 looks amazing. It was really a great state of play. So thank you so much for that, Split End. All right, we got another super chat here dropping. Frostbite Slash with a 5. Thank you so much, Frostbite Slash. Hey, Benji, last night's state of play was definitely the best one to date. I agree with you. If it was that good, it makes you wonder what they're cooking up for their main show. So, yeah, I agree. There's going to be a lot of debate around that state of play. I think for a state of play, keep in mind I'm not going to count their showcases as just like a random state of play. I agree, Frostbite. I think that was the best state of play Sony's ever released, not counting the ones that they bill as their full-on showcases. Because the ones that are like, the really big shows, usually they flat out call that a showcase. For just a state of play, I agree. I think it was my favorite one so far. I thought there was a lot of games that looked great. I thought the pacing was really good on this, right? It felt like a brisk 30 minutes. Nothing in there felt like it was dragging to me. They got through it really fast. Everything looked great. So I agree. Frostbite, probably the best state of play so far for me. And for their main show, I think it's primarily going to be first-party focused, right? The fact that they already showed Final Fantasy 16, they already showed Resident Evil 4 Remake, they already showed Street Fighter 6, these big, huge games. The fact that they showed them now, what this says to me is the actual showcase that's going to happen, which is probably September. This isn't inside info, but if you just look, last year they did a showcase in September, and the year before they also did a showcase in September. So if Sony's done it 2 years in a row, you can probably assume, this isn't inside information, but considering there was basically no first party here besides Call of the Mountain, obviously they got to show first party stuff. I'm going to guess that's probably September, and I'm not going to expect a ton Frostbite Slash out of third parties there. You might get a little bit. Don't be surprised if you get a couple first party games at that PlayStation showcase in September or whatever, but the fact that they did these now tells me it's going to be really heavy on first party. So probably, which makes sense, because keep in mind, a lot of Sony's first party studios haven't officially announced their games. Even if we know what they're working on, for example, like we know from all the rumors Naughty Dog's making a Last of Us remake, that's not officially announced, right? There's still a lot of people that don't know that's coming. And that's the case for a lot of their first party studios. A lot of them don't have announced games right now. So yeah, probably heavy first party showcase, or heavy first party focus whenever they do have their showcase. Another super chat just dropped. Thank you so much from Benji, dropping a 10. Thank you so much, Benji. Great to see you in every chat. And thanks for always being so supportive, man. Benji, thoughts on Spider-Man coming to PC? This is huge. And why Sony isn't going for a day one release on PC? Don't you think overall PC sales would be bigger? Yeah, there's no doubt. If Sony was launching their games day one on PC, they would absolutely sell more on PC than they do during this staggered release. But here's what I think, Benji, is going to be Sony's long-term game here. I think we're going to eventually get to a point, and I don't know if day and date is ever going to happen on games as a service or multiplayer projects. I've already talked about this on the chat a lot. I think all of those games as a service and multiplayer games that Sony's making, we know they have so many in development right now. I have a feeling that most, if not all of those, will be day one on PC. We've talked about it on here before, just getting a big player base for these multiplayer games is so important. So I think most of those are going to be PC only, but for these single player projects, I still don't think they're going to go day one, day and date on PC for quite some time, if ever, but maybe it happens, but I think it'll be a while for that. I think we will get to a point, though, probably this generation, where it's really just about a year. Probably just about a year. Maybe they push it to 2 for a couple, but I don't think we're going to always be in this situation now like we are right now, where, for example, Spider-Man, that game came out in 2018. Here we are 4 years later and it's hitting PC. I don't think they're going to want to keep waiting that long, because that could be potentially even bigger, right, by pushing that up some. So I think at maximum, you're going to hit a scenario at some time this gen. I'm not going to tell you it's happening tomorrow, but at some point in this generation, I think 2 years will be like the max gap, even on these single player games. And I could very much see them going down to 1 year for a lot of them. Like you wait a year and now it's on PC by the end of the generation. Why are they still doing it? Because Sony still is so invested in the console. Now, I don't think that putting your games on PC harms your console sales. Let's just look at Xbox, right? Xbox right now, the Series X and S, they are still the fastest selling Xbox consoles ever. And that is with Microsoft putting their games day and date on PC. We've talked about this a lot on this chat. Don't get me wrong, is there overlap between the PC market and the console market? Absolutely, there is some overlap there. But is it like a gigantic amount where like 90% of your people playing PC are also hardcore console gamers? No, that's just not the reality. A lot of PC gamers are mostly just focused on PC. And a lot of console gamers are the same way. They don't have high-end rigs. They mostly play on console. Again, I'm not going to tell you it's everybody, but there is some overlap. There are some people with super high-end PC rigs and also have consoles, but it ain't a lot. Those markets are, for the most part, somewhat separate. So I think Sony is still a bit afraid that if they put their games day one on PC, it'll harm their console sales. I'm of the opinion that it wouldn't really, because there's not much evidence for it. Xbox isn't slowing down in sales by putting their games on PC. In fact, Series X and S continue to be the fastest selling Xboxes ever. So I don't think it would be the end of the world for them, but I don't think that that day one's going to happen. Like I said, I think they'll probably go 1 year to 2 years on these games moving forward. Now, thoughts on Spider-Man on PC? It's going to be giant, right? Going to be huge. So keep in mind, you know, Horizon, I made a tweet about this. Suddenly putting Spider-Man and Miles Morales, both of those are coming this year. That $300 million forecast for PC from Sony, boy, does that make a lot of sense now. And some people were misunderstanding this tweet, and I don't know if it was honestly misunderstanding, or you know how people can be on social media sometimes. Sometimes they want to purposefully misunderstand your tweet. And I made a tweet saying, boy, does that 300 million number make sense now, considering they're putting Spider-Man and Miles Morales, two huge games, on PC this year. And some people took that as me saying just those two games are going to instantly make 300 million. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, are those going to contribute a huge chunk that can get you to that 300 million number this fiscal year? There's no doubt about it. Spider-Man and Miles Morales are going to be multi-million unit selling titles in just this fiscal year. Not even talking long term. How do I know that? God of War sold almost 1 million units in just a couple months on PC. That game launched, what was it, in January? And we got the numbers as of, I think it was April or March. And that game was already basically at 1 million units. Y'all, if God of War is going to do 1 million units in a few months, Spider-Man and Miles Morales are going to do multiple million units in just a few months between them. So that's going to contribute in a very big way to getting Sony to that 300 million number. Now, of course, there's going to be other things factoring into that too, right? God of War's continued sales, Horizon's continued sales. We know Uncharted, the Legacy of Thieves collection's coming. That's going to add to the sales. But this is a very big deal. Putting Spider-Man and Miles Morales out of the games that Sony has right now, not counting games that are coming up, not counting games, you know, that could potentially hit day one if it's a multiplayer game. But out of the like legacy games they have, there is no bigger game they could be putting on Steam right now than Spider-Man and Miles Morales. Those are the biggest. Those games combined have sold over 33 million units on just PlayStation. Am I expecting 33 million units sold on PC? No, but these are going to be multi-million unit selling titles each. So big. Very, very big, Benji. This is a very big deal. And suddenly that number, that super high number that we were all looking at, and we're like, man, you expect that kind of growth? How are you going to get there? It makes sense now. Putting both Spider-Man games, that's going to help. So thanks, Benji. Thank you for that super chat. All right, super chats are clear for now. Let's get to your free questions. Thank you so much, everyone who donated. Michael Yu. Prediction time. How many units will both Spider-Man SKUs sell on PC in 3 years' time, Benji? I'm going to say 15 plus million is what Michael Yu's predicting. This is tough. So Horizon, as we know, was already over 2 million, and that released on PC in, I want to say, 2020. So you're saying 3 years. So that's going to be longer than what Horizon's been available on PC on. Man, this is very hard to say. This is very hard to say, to be honest with you, because we haven't seen, there's no precedent, right? For example, like, now that I've seen how Horizon Zero Dawn sold on PC, I can make a more educated guess on how Forbidden West is going to sell once it hits PC, because make no mistake, it's coming. But here's what I'll say. In 3 years, I definitely think the two of them can reach probably around that 10 million number. Because like I said, Horizon by itself is, that's going on 3 million. It's approaching 3 million. I expect for sure that, Spider-Man's going to outsell faster than that. And there's two of them. There's two Spider-Man games coming. So I would say in 3 years, I could definitely see them hitting that 10 million number between the two of them. 15 might be tough. We'll have to see. Right now, I'm going to go a little bit more conservative than you, Michael Yu, even though these were ginormous on console, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope these things sell 15 plus million in a year or two. But I'm going to be a little more cautious. I'm going to go more towards that like 10 million range between the 2 and 3 years, but it could be higher. Don't rule out higher. Don't rule out that I'm underestimating this. I'm just going a little bit conservative since they've been out for a long time, and these are pretty late ports. I know it's still a huge IP, but I'm going to go a little more conservative. I'm going to say 10 million, but it could be higher. I'll be surprised if it's less than 10 in 3 years between the two of them. Because you got to think, even if they sold at the exact same rate as Horizon Zero Dawn, which there's no reason to think they would, but even if you do assume that's the best case scenario, that's going to be, Horizon we're going to say is going to be at 3 million in 3 years. Just between the two, if they match that, that's 6 million. You know what I mean? So like, even if they sold almost the same as Horizon, you're already getting closer to 10 million. So under 10 seems highly unlikely to me, but we'll have to see. Fernando Harada here. Benji, we need to invade Sony headquarters and demand Bloodborne PS5/PC by force. Tasers won't stop us. Fernando, my theory on why you still have not seen Bloodborne on PC, I think this game is going to get remade. I don't know when. I think that's what Sony's waiting on. I think that Sony's going to wait till they can do an actual remake like they did of Demon's Souls before they put this on PC and PS5. I know the game's not super old, but it did actually have some pretty significant issues. As much as I love that game, from the engine in terms of like frame pacing and stuff like that, if they actually fully remake it, they could probably fix a lot of those issues that they had in the engine itself and make it run way better, for example. So Fernando, this is just a theory. I don't know that this is in development, and I think if this is coming, I still think it's a few years away. Like, I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. But my theory on why you still haven't seen a patch for Bloodborne or seen Bloodborne come to PC, I think Sony wants to do an actual straight-up Bloodborne remake like they did on Demon's Souls. So that's going to be my guess. But it's got to be coming at some point, Fernando. There's got to be something Bloodborne coming. Eddie Brock. Don't you think it's unhealthy for Sony to not make a big event until September and leave fans in the dark, wait 9 months each year? Will that change in 2023? Is it due to COVID? Isn't it bad to wait 9 months? Isn't it bad to leave us in the dark? Oh, wait, sorry. Your comment entered twice. I think the main reason why they've been going in September, Eddie, isn't like because they love the month of September. I just think that they're waiting for their games to be shown. Like ready to be shown. And I think that just keeps being late in the year. It's very clear now to anyone watching the industry, COVID totally destroyed development cycles. There's just no debate about it, right? There's a lot of debate and talk about work from home, and I think that's great. I think work from home is a great thing. I think the company should be pushing for it. I think giving people options is great. But keep in mind, a lot of people had to adapt, right? You had to learn how to build these games from home. Now, there's a lot of learnings in place, so it makes a lot more sense that, you're seeing these companies be more proactive and more accepting of people working remotely. Makes sense because these these systems are now being built into place, but that wasn't really there before. So companies had to radically react, like, what are we going to do? We can't go into the studio and we've got months and months of who knows how long this is going to last, and it's turned out it was years to build these games. Clearly that had a ginormous impact across the industry, including at PlayStation. Now, is that ever going to change? Are they going to move away from their September showcases, or is that now their new, like, stand? I don't know. You know, it could be that they like having their first party a bit away from Microsoft and Nintendo. Microsoft still seems dead set on that June date, which I like. I like having it in the summer. Nintendo, we don't know, actually. Nintendo still has not announced anything in terms of a showing. I think they're probably going to still go in June, but we don't know that. They still haven't announced anything yet. So it could partially be, too, that Sony likes to be like, hey, let those guys do their thing and that, you know, get all this attention or whatever in June, and that way there's no direct, like, competition with each other in terms of viewership or numbers or just, you know, whatever, internet comments. We can just go in September and do our own thing and be completely on our own. Could be that they like doing that too. So Eddie, I don't know if it's going to change, but the main reason why I think these showcases have been pushed late is more because of the pandemic, but they might like it now that they're there. Not Deku. I like the way Sony's doing PC ports for exclusives after hitting PS Plus. Is this a sign forward? Both Spider-Man Returnal and PS Plus. Not Deku, like I said, I think it's going to be much faster. I heard rumors before Horizon Forbidden West even came out that game's turnaround on PC was going to be very fast. Don't be surprised if you see that game announced for PC in the next 12 months. I'm not going to tell you that's what's happening. I don't know that for sure. I haven't talked to Gorilla and been like, hey, when's this game coming out to PC? And I promise you they wouldn't tell me anyways. But what I always heard before that game even launched was that the wait for Forbidden West would be much, much shorter than what it was for Zero Dawn on PC. So are they going to always wait until these games are all the way on PS Plus? No, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're going to see these games much faster. Like I said, 1 to 2 years. There's already rumors that Returnal's coming to PC sometime soon, and that game will be under 2 years probably by the time it hits PC. So I would not say not Deku that that's going to be the rule of thumb. Could be on some games. Maybe some games they do wait 4 years, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Very, very rarely. Benji here. Benji, do you see the PS5 reaching PS4 numbers with the shortage issue it faced early in its lifetime? This is a great question, Benji. Great question. Now, Sony thinks they are. And of course, you have to, you have to put in a disclaimer here that, of course, a company is always going to say that they think they're going to sell the best, make the most money, all of this kind of stuff. So, of course, they're going to say that. On the other hand, I mean, they're putting out like the actual forecast of when they think it's going to happen. Now, Sony's basically expecting that for this next fiscal year, PlayStation 4 is still going to sell launch-aligned less than, our PS5 is going to sell less than PS4 over the next fiscal year. So that means until March of 2023, they still expect they're going to be behind PlayStation 4 launch-aligned. They've said that they expect to start gaining that ground back in next fiscal year, and then the fiscal year after that, they think they're going to accelerate, ahead of PS4. So basically, for your observations, anyone watching this, what is Sony expecting? So you can kind of think about this in your head whenever you're talking online to people about sales or whatever. Basically, here's the rundown from Sony. This next fiscal year, still behind PS4. Fiscal year next year, so from April 2023 to 2024, they start to gain that ground back on PS4, and then the fiscal year after that, they're going to accelerate ahead. That is what Sony's expecting. Do I think they can do that? This year will tell us a lot, Benji. If they can actually hit their forecast on what they're expecting, which is a pretty high number, I would say it becomes realistic, Benji. If they miss their forecast again, because they did miss it last year, then it becomes much more challenging because they would be continuing to lose ground, and that's just going to become harder and harder and harder to gain back. So they really need to hit their forecast this year. I will tell you, Benji, if they hit it, I think they probably can still match PS4 sales because I think this generation is going to be very long. I've been saying this on this chat a lot. This is going to be a long gen, potentially the longest generation in the history of the industry. I really think there's a chance that happens. So it could, despite falling behind, they could gain that ground back if A, they shortages vastly improve, and B, this generation goes a super long time, which gives them extra time to gain that ground back. So I'm not going to say it's a lock that PS5 matches PS4, but I would say this year is going to tell us a lot. It's going to tell us a lot. They really need to hit their forecast. If they miss again, it's going to become a big challenge. I'm not going to tell you it's impossible, but it's going to become more and more challenging the further behind they fall. So let's watch. Let's see this year, but I think it's doable. Joseph X1. Benji, when do you expect to see God of War Ragnarok? My guess, Joseph, and this is a total guess, no inside info or anything like this, I think you're going to see it in the next couple weeks. I think it's going to have its own standalone state of play. And some people might be surprised. They might be like, Benji, didn't you just say Sony's going to have a showcase in September as well? I'm expecting that as well. I think Sony's probably doing a staggered system here. And I hope this is the way it plays out. Get some of that third-party stuff out in June. Have a dedicated God of War state of play in either late June or maybe early July. And then your further out first-party games, the ones that ain't going to be coming this year, that's whenever you show them in September. I kind of feel like that's what they're doing. Keep in mind, Horizon Forbidden West got its own dedicated state of play. A lot of these first-party games get their own dedicated state of plays once you start to get close to launch. So, Joseph, I think you're going to see Ragnarok really soon. I don't think it's a coincidence you've seen all these merch listings popping up. I don't think it's a coincidence that God of War just so happens to be the PlayStation Plus game for June. There's very clear signs they're building up marketing for God of War. So I think you're going to see it soon, Joseph, in the next few weeks. I think it's going to be either later in June or early July. Really think so. In fact, I'm pretty confident in it. I'll be very surprised if you don't see it in the next few weeks. Very surprised. Casual gamer. And I didn't expect it at this state of play. So some people, I think most people didn't expect it, but you've seen some people be like, where was God of War? I don't think that was ever going to be here. Like, I never anticipated God of War here. It's going to be its own thing, I think. That 10, 15-minute state of play or whatever. Casual gamer. Benji Boy, do you think Square Enix will do well staying independent? Could they count on their profitable titles to take risks with NFT/crypto? Could NFT/crypto failure lead them to sell the company? You know what? I was just having this conversation with someone, Casual Gamer. It's actually insane the lineup that Square Enix has. So they have in development right now, just for AAA. I'm not even going to go into the smaller projects they have, the AA games, some of the smaller Switch titles. Just AAA. Square Enix has in development right now Forspoken, Final Fantasy 16, Kingdom Hearts 4, Dragon Quest 12, and the next Nier game. Those are all in development. Spoiler alert, yes, the next Nier game is in development within Square Enix. Square Enix is handling the development themselves. This shouldn't come as a shocker to you. They've been hiring for it for years. So, just AAA, they have a stacked lineup coming from their Japanese side. And that's not even counting some of the smaller projects they have coming. Here's the question. Are these games going to be hits? Are they going to sell well? Who knows? But Casual Gamer, if those all hit, I mean, they have some huge upside coming up because they have some seriously... Oh, and Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2. There's another one. They have so much big AAA games in development at Square Enix. Man, I'll tell you what, Square Enix is a company I've been I've been kind of critical of lately. If those hit and they're good, dude, I don't know. Watch out. Square Enix could potentially have a big turnaround in the next few years because their lineup right now is super aggressive. Like, super aggressive. And like I said, that's not even counting stuff like Live Alive or however you say it. The Dragon Quest HD 2D remakes. Like, there's even more on the plate. But just those big AAA games is stacked. I wouldn't be too worried about NFT crypto. I think it's just something that they're doing alongside this stuff. Someone's asked me this before. I don't think any company right now in the video game space would be dumb enough to gamble their entire company on NFT and crypto. If you are, I mean, if you're working specifically in NFT and crypto, like that's it. That's your business. You're not a video game publisher. I get gambling on it. But if you're a video game publisher, you should be fired right now. I'm just being honest with you. And I never say this kind of thing. I never think I know more than a leader at a company. But like, if you were so aggressive on NFT and crypto that you were risking the financial stability of your company, you should be fired. There's no reason you should be running a giant multi-million-dollar company if you are going to make that gamble. I can see doing it in addition to your business, like you're trying to explore and hope it pays off in the long term. But I'd be surprised if Square Enix was so foolish that they would gamble the entire future of their company on NFT and crypto. You know what I mean? So I think there's potential for a turnaround. SD, what do you think of the state of play? Was 10 out of 10 and beyond anyone's expectations? So SD was super hyped. Having RE4, Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16, Callisto Protocol, all the amazing VR stuff, and it was only a state of play and not a showcase. I think Sony is keeping the juicy first-party stuff for reveal. Like we've been talking about. They have like 20 studios and almost nothing's been revealed. Yeah, SD, basically I'm spot on with you. It was my favorite state of play. It was great. Like, that was really, for a state of play, it was a great state of play. I agree. I was talking with somebody before the show started. It was, I think it was Samuel Tolbert. I was talking with him before, and we were saying how if even two of those big three that were rumored to be shown soon, right? Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Those were the three that, like, Sony's probably got marketing on these, and who knows when they show up. We were saying if two of those three, if two of them show up, what an amazing state of play. They did all three. They not only do 2 out of 3, they hit all 3 of those. It was a great show. Great show. I think we just had a super chat drop. Let me hit that super chat. 2 super chats. Timmer here. Timmer 72299 with a 2. Thank you so much, Timmer. The Pokemon Company record profit thoughts. Yeah, think about that, y'all. Great thing to bring up, Timmer. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. Was it 300 something million or something like that? I'm probably way off because this is literally just pulling off the top of my brain. So anyone that missed this, the Pokemon Company, think about how long Pokemon's been around. I mean, this thing's been around forever. It's been around since I was a little kid. Record profit. Like, crazy. You know, here it was. This thing came out whenever I was like a little kid. I can remember being a super little kid and seeing the Pokemon cartoon come on in the morning. And here we are all these years later, and my daughter is going to grow up with Pokemon. Like, that is crazy. And not only is it still a thing, it's the most profitable it's ever been. And keep in mind, I think Scarlet and Violet look excellent. You can make some debates around the graphics or whatever. I think it looks fine for a Switch game. I think it actually looks pretty good for a Switch game. I think it looks way better than Pokemon Arceus, to be honest with you, in terms of visuals. It's not going to blow your hair off in terms of graphics, but I think it looks like a solid improvement over Arceus. So that's going to even elevate even higher because I think that thing's going to be huge. Pokemon Go still obviously driving huge amounts of profit, still making tons of money off the Pokemon cards, all that stuff. It's just a juggernaut. I mean, Pokemon continues to be a beast. It's going to be a beast for a very, very long time. And who knows, maybe even my daughter's kids are going to grow up with Pokemon. I wouldn't even be surprised at this point. Thanks, Timber. Matt Duffy here with a 5. Here comes Matt Duffy with the hype, everybody. Matt Duffy's the man. Matt Duffy dropping a 5 saying, Benji, you're an absolute phenom of an analyst and inspire many. Keep fighting for the future you want for yourself. The industry will never forget you. Everyone shout out to Matt Duffy. Tell Matt Duffy what's up. And Matt, you just hyped me up so much, dude. I appreciate these every single time you do them. Like, dude, I can't tell you how much it means to me to get that kind of stuff. You're the man. You're amazing. I say it all the time. I don't think I'm the best analyst or anything. In fact, I even took it, we talk about this. I took it off my profile a long time ago now. It's been over a year. It might even be 2 years since I had that listed as a thing. Now I just say I cover sales and business because that's the main thing I do. I'm covering it. But man, I really appreciate it. The amount of support I get within the industry blows my mind. It's crazy. I don't even understand how it happens. But thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for the hype. Thank you for the positivity. And you rock. And Trunks says I was right. Sweet, I was right. Trunks, WD here. Shout out to Trunks, doing great work with VG Charts. The Pokemon Company brought in $1.6 billion in revenue and $320 million in net profit. So I was right off the top of my head on that profit number. Sweet. Thanks for the info, Trunks. That's what I thought. I was like, I'm pretty sure I remember it being $300 million in profit. So nice. Nailed that. Thank you, Trunks. You're the man. And Matt Duffy, you are also the man. All right. Back to your free questions. Here we go. Miles Morales. Benji, in 2021, Sony announced they have 25 plus games in development. It was later announced there's 11 live service titles in development. That's 48% of their lineup. Isn't that worrying for single player fans? That leaves us with 14 single player first titles. Isn't that number a bit low? Do you think there's more single player games in development and the 25 plus number would be around 30 or maybe more? So here's the thing, Miles. This is very interesting, and we're going to have to see how it plays out. I watched the Q&A session with Jim Ryan that he just did. This was like, last week, I think? And here's what I'll say, Miles. They are all in on live service. It ain't a mystery. I mean, Sony is all in. Jim Ryan was talking about how it's going to transform their business. That's almost all they talked about. He didn't really even mention anything to do with single-player games or narrative-driven games. It was really all about PC, mobile, and live service. Now, do I think that Sony's going to abandon these single-player games? No. Look at the Spider-Man games. 33 plus million sold between the two of them. Look at Horizon, over 20 million sold. Look at God of War, over 20 million sold. The Last of Us. They're still going to make these single-player games. But Miles, I will tell you as a PlayStation fan after listening to Jim Ryan, it's one thing to see slides. It's another thing to watch and listen to the guy in charge talking about it. They're in. They are in on live service. So you do need to be prepared for that. I'm not telling you this is doom and gloom. I'm not telling you need to abandon PlayStation if you love single-player games. Those games are still definitely going to be coming. But is it true that they are heavily invested into live service? Yes. Yes. I mean, Jim Ryan was very clear on it. That was literally the words he used. It's going to be transformative to their business. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Should you worry? I would say don't worry yet until you see these games and you see the release cadence. So wait on that before you worry. We still need to see a PlayStation showcase. I get right now it's a little concerning when you don't have hardly any games announced from Sony in terms of their first party. You know Spider-Man and Wolverine are coming, but outside of that, not much is announced. So I get you see all these live service, things being teased. You're not seeing these single player games being announced right now. I get how that can be worrying. Let's look and see what the release cadence looks like. Let's look and see what the lineup looks like. But do be prepared if you're a Sony fan. It ain't just about single player narrative games anymore. It's really not. Sony's heavily invested into live service now. All right, Todd Perfect 91. What do you think of the Xbox account and even Aaron Greenberg just after the state of play saying things like, you can play that game on Xbox? Can't wait to play this game at day one on Xbox. I mean, they can, but it really feels very fanboy and childish. I don't have an issue with that because that's literally Aaron Greenberg's job. Literally. Aaron Greenberg is marketing for Xbox. Really respect Aaron. I'll tell you what. Let me tell you something, Todd Perfect. I'm going to finish this comment, and I wanted to say something very true here that people need to keep in mind. You don't see the marketing guys of Nintendo or PlayStation or the official accounts of N or PlayStation replying that kind of things when the competition reveals a multi-platform game. So I don't have an issue with that. If you're in charge of marketing, I wouldn't have an issue if Sony did it. If Xbox shows the game on their stage, it's multi-platform, I would have quite literally zero issue with a marketing head being like, play this game on PlayStation 2. That's your job. Your job is to tell people where they can play the games. You are marketing your console platform. So I don't actually have any issue with that at all. None, zero, zilch, nada. That's your job. And the other thing I want to say, listen, I interact, and this isn't like a cool Benji thing, it's just the facts. I interact with a lot of industry people. It's just the facts on Twitter. I interact with a lot of them. I can tell you, I don't know if I've met anyone as nice as Aaron Greenberg. I don't know if I've met one person at Sony, at Microsoft, at Nintendo, in a high up position that's as nice as Aaron Greenberg is. Very nice guy. So you know, I can get that some people, Aaron, I will totally admit, and I actually have a great relationship with Aaron. Who knows? He might even be watching this stream. I actually wouldn't even be shocked. But can Aaron sometimes get into a little back and forth with people online? Yeah. Okay, we all know Aaron can. I think he knows he can. He'll probably laugh about it too. So I get, like, if you're like a hardcore PlayStation fan, some of that stuff could rile you up, right? He had that infamous tweet about Halo, for example, whenever he was tweeting about how like Halo 3 by itself outsold like multiple PlayStation games. Listen, I can get, you know, if you're going to give a little, you got to take a little back. I get it. But I can tell you this. Aaron might be the nicest guy I've met in a high position at any of these companies. Like, really, he might be. And there's some great people at all these companies, but I can tell you that Aaron's a super kind guy. Okay. Miles Morales. And it's not like we're best friends or anything. He's super nice. That leaves us with 14. Oh, wait, I answered that already. Yoda Soda. Sup, Benji Chad? I'm not Chad right now. I'm getting skinny. Remember those gains I was getting? They're falling off. It's because of that health issue I had. Y'all gonna see me get very skinny and lose any muscle gains I was having. So it is what it is. Hopefully I can put it back on later, but you're gonna see me shrink and get skinny over the next few months. Sup, Benji Chad? Publishers like Take-Two, WB Games, Square Enix, Capcom have a lot of titles in the pipeline that warrant a showcase, but these publishers aren't making their own showcases. Any idea why? Why publishers choose to be part of PlayStation, Xbox, Jeff Showcase instead of making their own? Is it because they reach more audiences that way, cheaper, any other reason? I think it's a combo of all the above. Like, look at Capcom. They had 2 games here, right, at Sony Showcase. They had both Resident Evil 4 Remake and they had Street Fighter 6. You know, I think at Xbox's Showcase, I don't know this, but you're probably going to see a couple big games there as well. I don't know what games they're going to be, but I think you're probably going to see a couple pretty big third-party games there as well. And who knows, even in that PlayStation Showcase, if it happens in September, you'll probably see a bit there too. I think it's going to be mostly first-party, but you're probably going to see a bit there as well. I'm guessing it's a combo of all the above, Yoda. We know that these actual, like, platform holder showcases get huge views. Like, they do. They just get bigger than, like, EA Play or Ubisoft, you know, whatever theirs is named, Connect or something like that. I can't remember. Or I honestly can't remember the Ubisoft one. Those shows, they just don't get the same kind of viewership. If you look at the kind of viewership that a PlayStation Showcase is going to do, that an Xbox Showcase is going to do, that even the Jeff Keighley shows, right? The Game Awards and the Summer Game Fests and the Gamescom Opening Night Live, even Jeff's shows, those get really big viewership. So I think that's probably part of it. Hey, we're going to be able to get a ton of eyeballs. Part of it's marketing deals, right? If you're Sony and you're paying for a marketing deal, which, make no mistake, they paid for a marketing deal for Resident Evil 4 Remake. They paid for a marketing deal for Street Fighter 6. If you're paying money to be able to market it, you want that game on your show because you're like, hey, I'm paying you money to market this game. I want it associated with my ecosystem. I want to show that game myself. I want that on my stage. So you have that being a factor. You have the marketing deals, you have the high viewership, and then also expenses, right? If you are a company and you're putting on your own showcase, even if it's a digital-only event, you're still going to be spending some money. You still got to pay a production crew to come in and film that thing, even if it's not live on a stage. You still have to pay a host. You still have to set up the thing. You still got to do all the tech work behind the scenes. It's a lot cheaper to just make one trailer or 2 trailers or whatever and just put that on someone else's show. So I think it's a combo of all those things, Yoda. I think it's a combo of all of it. And also I'll add one other wrinkle into here. Probably some of these publishers don't have enough games to fill an entire showcase because of delays. You know, some of them might only have like 2 or 3 games ready to be shown. And you can't really build a whole showcase around 2 or 3 games, right? Like, even the State of Play that was only 30 minutes, you condensed it super short down into 30 minutes. That still had more than 2 or 3 games. So if you're Capcom and you can only show 3 games right now that are ready, it doesn't make a ton of sense to have your own show. You could just put down someone else's. So I think those are all factors, Yoda. All right. Do we have any super chats? Are they cleared? I think I got them all. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any. Yep, we're good. And we still got time. We still got lots of time. I'm going to be going for a while still, so don't worry, free questions. I'm still going to be hitting them. Batman Forever. Sorry if this question got asked before, but there's only 4 Marvel games in development. That number seems low compared to Star Wars, which is 7. Can we get more in the future? More pub dev / Marvel. Yeah, Batman, I mentioned this before. The reality is that outside of Spider-Man, Spider-Man was a giant success, but outside of that, Star Wars has had more success in games than Marvel. It's kind of the flip side of the TVs and movies, right? Don't get me wrong. I mean, Star Wars has had some great successes in recent years. Great successes. If you look at The Force Awakens box office, if you look at The Mandalorian, if you look at Obi-Wan, which just became the biggest hit on Disney+, but it's a lot more spread out. And not all of them are reaching that kind of successes, right? We saw that all 3 of the Star Wars films in the recent trilogy, they all dropped, right? You had that high of The Force Awakens, then it went down with The Last Jedi, and then it went down again with Rise of Skywalker. Now we're going years and years without movies. Marvel, much more successful right now, just overall. If you look at the whole umbrella of the movies, of the TV, multiple series, huge box office hits like Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange is about to be over 900 million, etc. But games is a bit of the inverse. We've seen some successes in games with Marvel. Spider-Man has been huge. But we haven't seen as consistent of successes as we've seen out of Star Wars. The first Battlefront from EA was a huge hit. Fallen Order was a huge hit. Even though it didn't seem like a giant seller, they talked about how Squadrons, the flying game, exceeded their expectations in sales. And even Battlefront 2, which was seen as a disappointment, still sold actually a lot of copies. So I think it makes sense in a way that you're seeing game companies more be willing to do Star Wars games than Marvel, because I think it's a little bit safer of a bet between the two. But I think you're still going to see more Marvel games coming. I don't think this is it. I don't think there's no more Marvel besides these. You're going to see more, but I think companies are a little more willing to gamble on Star Wars right now than that. All right. I think we had a super chat. Let me hit that super chat. Yo, I literally just spilled coffee on myself. Wow. What a pro. What a pro. All right. Dead Planet here with a 5. A lot of people seem ignorant on the impact Starfield is going to have on the zeitgeist. People don't get it. That game is Grand Theft Auto levels of important. Dead Planet, it's potentially huge. The game needs to be good. I think one thing you need to keep in mind, Dead Planet, is no one has seen this game. So I agree with you. I think that Starfield has potential to be giant. I think it has potential to be enormous. If you look at how big Skyrim is, if you look at how big Fallout 4 is, I mean, there's no debate. The mainline Bethesda Game Studios RPGs, the single-player ones, are colossal hits. My Dead Planet, I think one thing to keep in mind, this game has shown 0. All we've seen is artwork, and it's like a CG trailer. So... there was that one tiny, in-game one, last E3, right? Dead Planet, this is literally one of my most anticipated games. So I'm not trying to downplay Starfield at all. Literally, if I was to rank every single game that's announced right now, Starfield would be in my top 3 most anticipated games. But one thing that some Xbox fans need to keep in mind, I'm not saying all, but some need to keep in mind, the game hasn't been shown. It's going to be hard for some people, not everyone, but it's going to be hard for some people to get hyped when they've seen nothing on this game. They have no idea what the gameplay looks like. They have no idea how the RPG mechanics look. They have no idea what the narrative's going to be like. So I agree with you, Dead Planet, that the potential for Starfield is gigantic. If this game's good, if this game comes out, it's super high quality, it hits the bars people want, it's the evolution of these Bethesda Game Studios RPGs, it's going to be colossal. You're going to see people flat out buy Xbox Series X and S consoles just to play this game. You're going to see Game Pass subscribers grow, and it's going to be enormous on PC. All of that's 100% true, Dead Planet. But one thing to just keep in mind, we haven't seen the game yet. So that will go a long way. Dead Planet, if this game shows great at E3, because it's going to be there, we all know. If they have an excellent showing at E3, I agree with you, it will blow up. It will blow up. It'll be huge. So hopefully they kill at E3 and it looks great. Highlander here with a 10. Thank you so much, Highlander. Benji, and it's great to see you, and that's very generous. You're always giving very generous super chats. You do not have to do that. Thank you, Highlander. Benji, hope you're doing good. After the state of play from Sony, what do you think we will see from Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo at the summer show? I think you mean Summer Game Fest. And what will Microsoft show on the 12th? Okay. So Summer Game Fest, I'm expecting... I don't know. There's a rumor floating around. I can't verify this at all, by the way. I'm not even going to tell you that I think it's a likely scenario. I can just tell you there's a rumor floating around that God of War's at Summer Game Fest. That would be a big surprise to me. I mean, that's floating out there, that the date is even there. That God of War's at Summer Game Fest. That's a rumor floating in the ether. I don't know that I put any stock into it. I literally have no idea. Okay. It's kind of hard for me to believe Sony would do that and not give it its own state of play. That would be a shocker to me. Here's the thing. Highlander, the only way I can think that God of War's at Summer Game Fest and not its own state of play. There's one theory in my mind here if this is true. And keep in mind, like I said, I'm not putting any stock into this rumor. It's just a rumor. It's floating out there. A lot of these rumors are complete BS. But if it is... the only scenario I see that happening is if it's not going to get its own dedicated state of play because they want to keep a lot of narrative stuff under wraps. Again, that doesn't seem likely to me because I think you could show a 10 or 15 minute state of play and not spoil anything. I mean, they did it for games like The Last of Us, which was super story focused. But that would be the only thing I could think is if they plan on not doing a state of play on God of War and they just plan on showing a 3-minute trailer with a release date before this thing comes out. But I don't believe it. I'm going to be honest. I personally don't believe it's there. I think you'll probably see something from Sony and Microsoft at Summer Game Fest because they want to support Jeff, I think. But I'm not expecting either of them to go like all out. Like, that's what I mean. It's hard for me to believe God of War. They're going to put something as big as God of War with its release date at Summer Game Fest. If so, amazing. Shout out to Jeff for landing that. If so, I think you see something from Sony, something from Microsoft. I'll tell you what, this would be a great place to announce something that's more of like an update. So, for example, the Forza Horizon 5 expansion that we know is coming. We know that there's a Forza expansion coming. This would be a great spot to announce it if you're Xbox. Like, you know, save the big new game reveals for your own showcase. But hey, here's that Forza Horizon 5 expansion. Great place to show something like that. If it's ready. I don't know when this thing's coming out, but... you know, so we'll see. I don't think it's going to be big, giant reveals there, but you never know. Now, in terms of what Microsoft's going to show on the 12th, I expect this to be heavy, heavy first party. Heavy, heavy, heavy. If you were to have me guess, I think this thing might be like 70% first party games because they have so many games that are announced that we've seen nothing on and so many games unannounced. That it's like, man, they got to show a lot. So maybe I'm overestimating it, but I think it's going to be super first-party heavy, super Game Pass heavy. I think most of the third-party games you're going to see here are going to be games that are day one on Game Pass, but they'll have a couple sprinkled in that are marketing deals that aren't. So what those could be, who knows, right? But I think that very heavy first-party. The third-party stuff you see is going to be almost all stuff that's day one Game Pass. Not everything, but mostly, with a few marketing deals sprinkled in. I've talked about what games I'm expecting. I think Avowed's going to be here. Starfield's obviously going to be here. Redfall's obviously going to be here. And Forza Motorsport's obviously going to be here. Those are the ones I'm most thinking are likely. The only gamble there is Avowed, because maybe it's not. But those, to me, are the ones that stand out as the most likely. And after that, who knows? You know, we'll have to see. All right. Super chats are cleared. Thank you so much for the super chats, guys. Joseki. Benji. I hate to be the negative, but the exploration and combat gameplay of Sonic Frontiers looks so bad. Joseki, it's okay. I can relate. Let's talk about it. I'm baffled, and I honestly don't know why they sent footage this poor to IGN. It looks like a prototype build. It doesn't even feel like a Sonic game. The random rails in the sky look out of place, And the somber piano OST and the slow puzzles are not Sonic style at all. Thoughts? Okay. I think we can all mostly agree Sonic Frontiers looks bad. So, here's the thing. I'll be honest, the very first trailer that they showed, which we barely saw anything, it was just like open environments. I do not consider myself a hardcore Sonic fan at all. In fact, I couldn't even tell you the last Sonic game I played. Like, literally, it might have been on Sega Genesis. I'm not kidding. I don't play Sonic. Maybe I played one after that and I just can't remember. But I like the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. And I was like, I'm pretty interested in this. Sonic's going open world. Looks like an evolution of the franchise. Maybe this is going to be pretty cool. And like you, I hate being negative. You guys know I try to be as positive as I can on social media. But sometimes you just got to say the truth, right? I don't lie to you. Like, I try to be positive, but I'm being positive about things I genuinely feel positive about. Like, I don't mislead people. I'm not trying to market to you. I just tend to, because I have sometimes people ask me, they're like, do you just like everything? No. There's stuff I don't like. I just don't talk about it because, like, I only have so much time in my day, and I'm already a very depressed person. So, like, I want to at least focus on the positives I can in my life than the negatives. So I tend to try and be positive, right? It's weird, but you see a lot with people that are depressed. Look at Robin Williams, right? He was always trying to make people laugh and be positive. Anyways, I'm not trying to get into some super, like, in-depth conversation here, but I try to be positive. Sometimes, though, you do got to say, you got to call a spade a spade. Sonic Frontiers gameplay looks rough. There's just no way around it. This game looks like it needs to be delayed to me. I don't know that it's unsalvageable. Like I said, I'm not a hardcore Sonic fan. So to me, changing up the formula, trying to do something different, that actually sounds intriguing, and I was actually interested to play this game. But at the same time, it just looks rough. I hate to say it, this game needs to be delayed. Like, it needs to be delayed. I don't think it needs to come out this year. I think they need to push this to next year. I wouldn't say completely abandon the ideas, the concepts, anything like that. It just looks rough. Like, just everything looks rough. That is how I would describe it. So, Joseki, this to me seems like a game that's prime for delay. Prime. They should definitely push this because it's targeting this year, right? I would push that to 2023 for sure. Jason Benjamin. What's your thoughts on PlayStation titles hitting PC? Okay, we talked about that. Doesn't that devalue the need to buy a PS5? Not at all. Like, why buy a PS5 when I can play these exclusives on PC? Don't you think exclusives are important? Not really. Not really. We talked about this. A, there's very little overlap. And B, something that people online need to always keep in mind. And I keep this in mind all the time when I talk about this stuff. People on the internet are not reflective of your average gamer. How do I know this? Because I've been selling games to the average gamer for the past 15 years of my life, I think. Somewhere around there. It's what I do every day. It's literally what I've done since I was, like, fresh out of high school. It's what I've done my whole life. Sell games to the average gamer. They're not like the people you talk to on Twitter about video games. They're very different. So I know online it can seem like there's so many people running around with, 3080s in their PCs, and they got PS5s, and they got Series X's, and they just got everything, and why do I need a PlayStation? That's like 5% or less of people that play video games. So it doesn't devalue PlayStation at all because your average console gamer has no intention of building a high-end gaming PC. They just don't. I sell consoles to them every single day. They don't plan on building a high-end PC. Do some of them go that route eventually? Yes. But largely the data that you can look at, they're separate markets. There's some overlap. There's not a ton of overlap. They are pretty separate. So no, I don't think putting games on PC harms console sales at all. In fact, like we mentioned earlier, we literally have evidence it doesn't with Xbox Series X and S. So I don't think so. I can get Sony still trying to stick to a 1-year timed exclusive plan. I think 4 years like they've been doing is crazy. There's just no reason. It's literally not going to impact your console in any way, shape, or form moving that up. But no, it doesn't devalue PlayStation at all. Just like PC games being on PC hasn't devalued the Xbox. We know it hasn't because consumers are still buying it. So no, I don't think so, Jason. I get how it can look that way, but it's not. But the average gamer is very different. How much Lee Ford? Dang, dude, last live chat, I said Sony will drop big games this year, but I didn't think they were going to drop Spider-Man games, LMAO. I thought they would stay exclusive. That is crazy. I didn't expect Spider-Man. I'll be honest with you. I thought this game would eventually come to PC, but I wasn't expecting it this year. I was thinking maybe they were going to do like The Last of Us or something like that, or Ghost of Tsushima even, because those are coming too. Just get ready. Every PlayStation game will be on PC. But, yeah, it's big. It makes that number make way more sense. Yep. I agree, though. I didn't expect, especially both, right? Like, it's not one, it's both. They're doing Spider-Man and they're doing Miles Morales in the same year. I did not see that coming either, Hamish. I didn't either. Zombie Plus, hi Benji, how big do you think the PlayStation Showcase will be? Yesterday's State of Play was almost a mini showcase. If they added 2 or 4 first-party games like the PS Showcase would have been. I think it's going to be pretty good size, but like I said, I think it's going to be very first-party. Very first-party. So I wouldn't necessarily say expect the same caliber of third-party games at the actual PlayStation Showcase if it happens. You might get 1 or 2, but do I think you're going to get Final Fantasy 16, Street Fighter 6, Resident Evil 4 Remake, like just bam, 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 bam. I don't know that they're going to go, Callisto Protocol. I don't know if it's going to be like that heavy third party. You're going to get a little bit, but I think it's going to be almost like a flip of what this was. I think you're going to get like 4 or 5 huge first party announcements, like some huge first party games, and then a few third parties sprinkled in. I think we had a super chat. Let me hit that super chat. We do have a super chat. Thank you, mods split end. Thank you for cleaning up the chat from all of these what's the word I'm looking for? These bots. No, I'm not saying X bots, like actual bots in the chat. Thank you for cleaning that up, split end. Highlander 001 with a 10. Holy cow, dude. You did not need to do that. That's your second one of the chat. Very generous. Playing My Little Pony with my daughter, and she just got a couple of friends and my cousin to play with her. Funny thing is we're all vets. This is funny as hell. Hey, shout out to My Little Pony. We talk about this. First of all, shout out to you and your daughter. I always love seeing that because I'm a daughter dad as well. And I know how amazing that can be. I say this all the time, right? Don't we always talk about this on this chat? There aren't enough family-friendly games out there, that parents can play with their kids, that, like you said, your friends can play, that her friends could play. There's not enough. That's one thing that the console market has super underserved in recent years, outside of Nintendo. Nintendo has still done a fantastic job of doing that, but Xbox and Sony have really failed in that regard. There's just no way around it, and I like that Phil Spencer himself has even admitted that. He said we need more family-friendly content. There's just not enough of it. So, hey, if it's My Little Pony, it's My Little Pony. If it's that Disney game that's coming up, right? I can't remember the name of it, but there's that Disney game coming up that looks pretty cool. Look at how big Lego Star Wars was. Yeah, a lot of adults played that game, but it also sold to tons of families, tons of kids as well. So, dude, Highlander, that's awesome. Hope you're having a blast with your daughter, and hopefully we see more of these family-friendly type games hit the consoles, because it needs it. It's almost all on mobile, right? There's a ton of this stuff on mobile. Hard to play, though, with your kids on a mobile game, right? It's much easier to do it on a console. Thank you for that super chat. All right. We're going to be going for a little bit longer. Maybe about 15, 20 minutes, and then I got to go. Let me hit these. Where we at? JCat, what is up? Hi, JCat. Great to see you in the chat. Thanks for helping mod the channel, and thanks for being amazing as always, JCat. Joseki, Q4 this calendar year will be an open goal for Nintendo and Activision, won't it? Pokemon and Call of Duty have no competition. I talked about this. If you are a third party, don't go anywhere friggin' near Modern Warfare 2. Like, Nintendo is amazing. Like, this is one strength of Nintendo by making their platform so different than PlayStation and Xbox. Like, PlayStation and Xbox are so similar, which is what's funny that people fight over them so much because they're such similar platforms. There's differences, of course, like every platform, but like PlayStation and Xbox are so much closer than Nintendo. One advantage for Nintendo, they can launch Pokemon pretty close to MW2, and it's really no big deal. Like, I'm telling you, Modern Warfare 2 ain't gonna hurt Pokemon. But for a lot of these third parties, and even Microsoft and Sony first party, I would stay the friggin' heck away from Modern Warfare 2. I'm not saying you can't launch after it at some point. I would put a 2-week window on this game, before and after. I ain't launching nothing next to it. Y'all, this thing is going to suck all the air out of the room. It's going to be freaking colossal. I know that sounds like it's easy to forget because Vanguard underperformed so much, but this is the sequel to the biggest, fastest selling Call of Duty of all time. The tweets for it, just randomly tweeting the logo, have become the most liked Call of Duty tweets of all time. This thing is going to be a freaking monster. Now, there's going to be a little bit more in Q4. We found out Callisto Protocol. I think that game's going to do very well. Do I think Callisto Protocol is going to sell 20 million units? No. But, man, there's like not a lot of competition in that AAA horror market right now, and the game looks good. I think Callisto Protocol will do really nice. Hogwarts Legacy will also be a juggernaut. So those, I think, are going to be less so Callisto Protocol, but I think your 3 juggernauts for Q4, Joseki, like, what are the 3 that are going to be your titans? I think they're going to be Hogwarts Legacy, they're going to be Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and they're going to be MW2, yeah. Yep, those should be your big beasts. Yeah, I saw this pop up, but I haven't looked into it at all. Split End is saying, how about Prince of Persia Remake possibly being canceled? I have not seen this. That would be a bummer for Prince of Persia fans that have been waiting so long, but that game looked really bad. It looked so bad. I mean, I hate to say that. You guys know I like to be positive, but when they showed it, it looked so bad. I hope it's still coming for Prince of Persia fans. They've been starved for more Prince of Persia. But at the same time, I will just say, and I have not read any articles. I don't know. I'm out of the loop on this one, okay? I just saw it popping up on like Twitter and stuff. If it is canceled, I will say I'm not surprised. It looked like it was rough. I don't know if it was salvageable. Hopefully it was, and hopefully that's just a rumor, but it looked almost like it was unsalvageable. But hopefully they fixed it, and it's still going to come. I think we had a super chat. Let me hit that super chat. We did. Man, chat is popping today. Hopefully it's not people fighting. But I don't know. I haven't gotten down there yet. But chat is very full today with a lot of discussion. Devendra Sukwani here. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm sure I'm doing a bad job. I apologize. Been a silent viewer for about a year now, and I've absolutely loved every moment. Oh man, this is awesome. Your insight and knowledge are a joy to hear. Keep up the great work. Holy cow. Listen, that means so much to me. I really appreciate that so much. You did not have to type me a super chat just for a kind comment like that, but that really means a lot to me. You know, I love doing these chats. Like, I love it. If I got 0 super chats. Like, obviously the super chats are nice, right? I'm a retail worker. These guys, I tell you this all the time. I use this to help fund my gaming, right? Like, it'd be very hard for me to be buying games without this. That's what all your super chats go to. You help me get the games that I play. But if I got 0 super chats, if there was 0 super chats, 0 revenue coming in from YouTube, I would still do these chats because I love doing them. I love doing them. So, Devendra, I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm sure I'm doing a bad job. I apologize. That really makes me happy to see that you also enjoy these chats. I think a lot of people do. I'm not the biggest YouTuber. My chats aren't getting 20,000 views, but they usually get like 700 or so. I mean, hey, To me, that's a lot of people. 700 or so people watching this thing every week that are hopefully having a good time. Hopefully I can give some decent commentary, and your guys' questions are great too. We learn, it's not just about me talking. You guys drop great info and great questions in the chat that also help other people learn, right? You guys are doing it with me. This is like a cooperative experience. So thank you. That means a lot. Thank you so much. And I hope you continue watching and you keep enjoying the show. Dead Planet here with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Dead Planet. That's your second one. That's really kind. Will Xbox triple dip on MW2 in another 10 years? Will they reboot it again? Oh, man, that's a great question. That is a great question. Will they go for a third reboot? Here's what I'll say. Do I think you're still going to get Modern Warfare games in another 10 years? Yes. I think there will still be Modern Warfare games. It's too valuable of a brand. It's the most successful Call of Duty brand. Will those be like reboots like we're seeing here where they're even reusing, you know, like some of the original characters and stuff? Obviously, we know they're changing some stuff with story. I don't know if they'll do that again, like a full-scale reboot. But you are going to still get Modern Warfare games. So you're saying directly MW2? I don't know. But they won't abandon that Modern Warfare brand. It's too valuable. It's the most valuable of all of the Call of Duty brands. Not counting Warzone, right? We're talking about like the franchise level. It's more successful than Black Ops. Black Ops is super successful as well. That's your number 2. But that number 1, it's Modern Warfare. Too valuable of a brand to abandon. All right. Thank you for that super chat. All right. Let's get rocking. I got time for a few more questions. And then we will have to bounce. Red Dead Series, what's up? Thanks for being in like every chat saying it's Morbin time. Yeah, you guys are gonna meme a sequel into existence. Have you seen this? They're friggin', which I find the Morbin memes hilarious. I don't know why they're so funny because I've never seen this movie. There is something utterly hilarious about the Morbius meme. I don't know why, but it is so unbelievably funny. But you guys are going to meme Morbius 2 into existence. They're bringing this thing back into theaters. It's crazy. It's crazy. The power of memes. I saw one tweet that was hilarious. They're like, you guys are gonna meme Morbius back into the theater just for it to make like $11. All right, Ghost Tunnels. Do you see a future where single-player titles become a niche genre compared to multiplayer titles? Everyone seems to chase the live service nugget. If it succeeds, could most devs choose multiplayer? Ghost Tunnels, I say this all the time. I think the best balance for a publisher is a bit of both. I think it's a mistake to go all in on one or all in on the other, right? This was the one criticism you could make of Sony last generation. On the single player side, they were completely amazing, right? They had so many great hits, such high quality bar, but they really did, this is just the truth, they dropped the ball in terms of multiplayer last gen. You do need some live service and you do need some multiplayer games. Now there could be an argument, Ghost Tunnels, and we'll have to see how this plays out. There could be an argument that Sony might be over pivoting, right? Because sometimes you overcorrect on things. It could be anything. It could be business. It could be life. It could be any decision. Sometimes if you're lacking in an area or something and you realize you need to fix it, you can sometimes over-course correct. There could be a discussion, and I don't know. We're going to have to see how it plays out. That maybe Sony's doing that too much. Maybe they were like, holy cow, we don't have any big live service multiplayer games. Now we're going to do so many of these games. Maybe they're going too aggressive in that. But they did need to come some. Like, they did need to have some of those types of games. Even Nintendo. Look at Nintendo, right? So often we think about Nintendo being like, in terms of online, being kind of behind the ball with the industry, right? In terms of that sort of thing. But even they have games like Splatoon, for example, that are big multiplayer games. Or Smash Bros, right? Which has a huge multiplayer component that people play and DLC characters. Sony was really lacking in that regard. So I get why they're kind of pivoting to do more of that stuff. You can do too much live service, though. I think that was one thing that EA really learned from Fallen Order. Fallen Order, I think, was a real wake-up call to EA that single-player games can still be huge. That game really fundamentally changed some stuff in EA from what I've heard. That's the word on the grapevine. from good sources that seeing a single player game succeed like that was a big deal for EA. So I think the best publishers in the industry, whether you're a platform holder or third party, I think the very best ones will have a balance of both. You're going to have some of those big multiplayer, giant live service successful games. You're also going to have some of those really cool, awesome single player focused games as well. So do I think you're going to ever see the industry completely abandon single player? I don't think so. You might see some publishers go super aggressive one way or the other, but the best is a balance of both. Venom Harness. Could Ubisoft suffer the same fate as THQ if their titles keep flopping? Meaning selling their assets or merge with a bigger company. Ooh. What do I say? Also, do you think THQ Nordic is a profitable company? Are they AAA? So THQ Nordic, this would be a great question to ask either Dark Detective on Twitter or is it... He also has I think it's called THQ Investor or something like that. No, it's either find Dark Detective on Twitter or Embracer Investor. That's going to be your best source for the financials on them. I think that they're doing really well from a cursory glance. I'm not as in-depth and detail as Dark Detective would be. But I think they're doing well. I think they have a big upside. Are they AAA? They do have some AAA games in development, but I would say they have more AA games in development. That's kind of like their bread and butter and kind of like the niche they're carving for themselves. I think they want to eventually build into like where they're one of the big juggernaut AAA publishers in the industry, but right now they're being a little smart on budgets and they're doing a few AAA games because they do have some. But they're also doing a lot more in that mid-in-between space. Not indie, but not AAA. But I'm pretty confident in Embracer in the future. Now, Ubisoft. What do I say? Ubisoft's going to get bought. So we'll just say that. And we'll leave it there. By who, I'm not 100% sure, though. But it's happening. Ubisoft's getting bought. If I had to gamble, I would say private. But we'll see. Mazio. Okay, I was mistaken. People were not disappointed. We got the best state of play ever instead. Yeah, I think this was a surprise. I even saw like on Twitter and on YouTube lots of people saying the same thing. They're like, wow, didn't expect this to be like one of the best or the best state of play. Yeah, that was a surprise and a good one. It's good to see. It's a nice surprise. Homie, since Stray is coming to PS Plus Premium on release, yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? You think first-party games have a chance to be on it day one, not anytime soon. In this same Q&A that Jim Ryan just did, where he was talking about how they were going to push so aggressively into live service games, he also, again, I don't want to say doubled down because he's done this before. What is it now, like triple or quadruple down? That they are not doing games day one on a subscription for their first-party big games. Homie, do I think that it could happen eventually? Like, do I think 10 years down the line Sony could start putting their games on there? I don't want to say it's impossible because we need to see what subscriptions do to the industry. If Microsoft, and we need to watch, but if Microsoft gets to a point where they have like 100 friggin' million subscribers to Game Pass, which again, I'm not telling you they're going to, but I'm saying if they do, if we hit some scenario in 10 years from now, they're making billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars off Game Pass, and this thing has 100 million plus subs or 150 million subs, who knows? You know, could that change radically the entire landscape of this industry? Yeah, it really could. It could do that. But do I think it's happening anytime soon? No. The only exception, homie, I could see is these live service games. Maybe something like that could go day one onto a subscription. But do I think you're going to see God of War 57 or, you know, The Last of Us Part 3 or whatever? Do I think you're going to see any of those day one on PS Plus Premium this generation? No. I don't think they're going to do it this gen. Who knows? Maybe next gen. But I don't think they're going to do it this gen. But Stray is a really interesting thing. Notice, though, it's a smaller title, right? They're not doing the big giant AAAs. I think you might start to see more of this. More of these games that they partner with and that aren't big giant AAA budgets. I think you might to see more of this kind of stuff, right? Come into the service on day one, which is interesting. That is some added value. David Rodriguez, what's up? Callisto Protocol had the best trailer in my opinion. I agree. David, we're on the same boat. I agree. I thought Callisto Protocol was the best looking trailer of the bunch. I agree. And like I said, for anyone that came late to the stream, Callisto Protocol was what I thought was the best trailer, and Street Fighter 6 was my biggest surprise at how good it looked. I was surprised, like, wow, this looks great compared to the state Street Fighter 5 launched in. So, wow. I think Street Fighter 6 could be very big. We'll have to see. I think it has very high potential. I'm raising my internal forecast on Street Fighter 6 after this showing. It went up quite a bit. Street Fighter 6 went up quite a bit from what we saw, from what I was expecting. Another one. I'm loving this. Michael Yu, Callisto Protocol, my favorite announcement. Gameplay will be shown at Summer Game Fest. Yeah, man. That's good to see this thing went over well. That's great, because I agree. Callisto Protocol looks awesome. Samuel Tolbert. Benji, what is up? Samuel, great friend of mine. What an awesome dude. Great human being. Very knowledgeable in the industry. And a great writer as well. I mean, I'm just heaping the comments on you, Samuel. But they're all deserved. Benji, hope you're well, my dude. With the Callisto Protocol, Dead Space remake, and Resident Evil 4 remake slated to launch within a couple of months of each other, do you see more publishers trying AAA horror? What a renaissance we're having. I mean, what a renaissance. It looked like towards the end of last gen, really for most of last gen, horror used to be like a big deal in this industry. You know, there were so many of these IPs that were big, right? Silent Hill was huge for so long. Dead Space was a huge franchise. Resident Evil was a huge franchise. You know, there was tons, right? Tons and tons of horror games. And the industry really pivoted away from that for a while, where there still was horror games, but they were really kind of delegated down to like the indie games. You know, there was all these awesome horror games that were coming out. You know, you had the Amnesia games, which were excellent. You had the Outlast games that were excellent, but you know, they were much smaller productions. They weren't these big AAA games. What a renaissance we're seeing. We've got, like you mentioned, Callisto Protocol, Dead Space remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, Alan Wake 2 we know is going to be a horror game, and Resident Evil still just killing it, right? Across the board with, you know, the Village VR coming and et cetera, et cetera. Samuel, we could potentially be looking at the return of AAA horror. These games need to do well. But if they do, if Callisto Protocol does well, Dead Space remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, if these games do well, you're going to see a lot of publishers get interested in this space again. It always was a little weird how horror kind of fell off in gaming because it's still such a viable thing in cinema. Like, horror is one of the top genres at the box office still. It's not like, I mean, a horror movie in general is not going to perform like a Marvel movie or a DC movie or something like that, but it's one of the most consistent genres. Like, you can pump out horror movies, and as long as it's halfway okay, they'll usually make money. Like, it's not like a high-risk genre. Horror is actually pretty stable in the movie space. That's why you still see horror movies all the time. Gaming kind of moved away from it, which was a little weird. But let's see, Samuel. If these games do well, yeah, horror's back. There's no doubt. If those three all perform well, you're going to see more. All right, I'm going to take 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes and I got to go. And then I'm out. David Rodriguez. Yo, Benji, when do you think The Last of Us Factions 2 will release? This fiscal year. Now, is it going to be by December or is that going to be by March? I don't know, but I'm pretty confident it's this fiscal year. We know that Sony has 2 unannounced live service games coming this fiscal year. One of those kind of has to be Factions 2, doesn't it? It's been in development for quite a while. So I think it's definitely, by the latest, David, March 2023 at the latest. Could be even maybe this year, but March at the absolute furthest because there's 2 live service games that need to come out from Sony. That's got to be one of them. Rikidis, did they ever give a date for Uncharted on PC? I think they just said this year. Yeah, no update as far as I've heard other than it's like soonish. I think it's going to be in the next few months. But if they gave a straight up date, I think I might have missed it. Yeah, Split End says, I think they said summer, but apparently about a month ago, or possible date leaked on the Epic Store for June 20th. Yeah, that sounds right. Yep, sometime here soon. Next month or two, I think you'll get it. KY Han. I really don't get why Capcom is making Resident Evil 4. I can actually tell you the easy answer. But let's see what you have to say. It's actually a very easy answer. Like Resident Evil 4 is still actually perfect. And it was the game that made the gameplay style that Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes were done in. Like Resident Evil 4 remake seems to be getting rid of the campy action film vibe that the original had. So why would anyone play the remake? This is like saying let's remake Final Fantasy X. Why? Final Fantasy X holds up as is. The very easy answer, KY Han, because it's going to sell millions. That's just the easy answer. This thing's going to be huge. What's Resident Evil 2 Remake at now? Because it's going to sell more. Think about that. That's crazy. Let's look. What's Resident Evil 2 Remake at? Let's go to Capcom's Platinum Sales. Platinum Sales. All right. I want to say it's 10 mil. Pretty close. Pretty close. Where are we at? Just so I have the exact number. It's very close. Yep, 9.6 million. This is going to sell more than that. How crazy is that? It's going to sell 10 million units, Resident Evil 4 Remake. So that's the very easy answer, KY. Now, I get why some of the hardcore Resident Evil 4 fans are a bit like worried about this and less interested because they are moving away from that, KY. It's not going to be campy. It's actually going way more down the horror vibe. All of the leaks that have happened about this game basically outright confirm it. And the trailer just backed that up. They're really going more horror for Resident Evil 4 Remake than the original was. You might still get a little bit of that campiness, but they're largely moving away from it. The sole reason this thing exists is because it's going to sell 10 million units. Like, if you're a publisher and you have a game that you know is going to sell 10 million, you'd be irresponsible to not make it. So they're going to make it and it's going to sell 10 million. I'm like positive. The only way this thing doesn't sell 10 million units is if it's a complete and utter catastrophe in terms of quality. But like even Resident Evil 3 Remake, which is nowhere near of a beloved game, nowhere near as beloved, right? That thing's over 5 million, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that thing's over 5 million. Yeah, dude, it's at 5.2 million. And that's nowhere near as beloved. And the response to that wasn't near as positive as like what Resident Evil 2 Remakes was. This thing's a locked 10 million seller if it's even decent. So that's the whole reason. I get, like I said, if you're a hardcore Resident Evil 4 fan, I get being a little trepidatious about this and how it could be compared to the original. But it exists because it will sell. Ryan Kelly here with a nice comment. Benji, hyped to see you back with another live chat. Keep on trucking, man. Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate that. That's really kind of you. Doing my best. This state of play was honestly so high quality, it could have been its own showcase with God of War and another PS Studio style at the end. Thoughts? I mean, you're honestly pretty much right. If they wanted this to just straight up be their own showcase, if you throw 2 or 3 first-party games in there, it would have been a great show. Like, legit. Like, that could have been your showcase. You could have just done an hour showcase, add, let's say, 3 first-party games into it, and boom. People would have walked away from that, and they would have been like, that was a great show. So what that says to me, Ryan, the fact they didn't, like I said, I think you're going to see a very heavy first-party showcase soon. The fact they didn't do that. But yeah, it could have been. You throw 3 first-party games in there, and it's an excellent show. Like, not even as a state of play, but as an actual showcase. All right. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And I gotta go. Trunks WD. Sony does have more competition this generation than last generation as well. Absolutely. Microsoft's giving them way more competition than last gen. I've been telling you guys this for a long time. This gen's going to be much, much closer in terms of where it finishes. I still think worldwide, Sony's going to come out ahead. And globally, there's probably actually still going to be a decent gap at the end. But it's going to be way closer and more competitive than it was last gen, particularly the US. The US is a coin flip. Flip your coins right now. That thing could go either way. It really could. US, Who knows who finishes ahead at the end of this generation? It's literally a coin flip. Globally, I'm still going to give the edge to PlayStation, and maybe even by a decent gap, but it's not going to look like what last gen. We already know it's not, just by the way this generation started. RRD, do you think Xbox is going to manage a good show? I think Xbox's showcase is going to be excellent. As good as last year's was, and you saw a lot of people say that last year was the best Xbox showcase ever, I don't know if I thought it was their best. It was definitely one of. I would definitely put it as one of their best. And I think that there is an argument that last year was the best. I don't remember at the time if I said it was their best. I think I didn't. I think at the time I didn't say it wasn't. I think I said kind of what I just did right now. It was like, it's definitely one of the best for sure. I think this year's will be better because they just have way more first party stuff ready to show, I think. I could be wrong, but like as awesome as last year's show was, it was still a lot of CG stuff, right? Or it was a lot of concept stuff. Like Starfield, you didn't see much. Redfall, you didn't see much. It was a great show. I'm not like knocking the show, but I'm saying you didn't see a lot of what these games are. I think this year you're going to see a lot. Like you're really going to see what these games are. So I think it actually is going to be better than last year. All right, last question. I got to take one more, and I got to go. I'm not going to count this one because it's super short. Martin, excited for Forspoken after the last showing? Yes. So my journey with Forspoken has been interesting. When Forspoken was first announced, I was like, sweet, a Square Enix AAA JRPG. Of course I'm pumped for this because I love Square Enix AAA RPGs. Then they had that one showing that was like, I think towards the end of last year, if I remember right. It's hard to remember now, but I think it was like maybe in like September or something of last year, and it looked really rough. And then I was like, oh, I don't know that I'm so excited for Forspoken anymore. But then this last showing of Forspoken, which I think was at the last state of play before this one, right? Isn't that where it was? It wasn't this state of play. It was the last one before that. I thought it looked good again. I thought it looked great even. So, yes, excited for Forspoken. I think delaying that was such a smart decision. Good. Shout out to Square Enix. Delaying that was the right call, considering the rougher state it looked in and the improvements we were already seeing. So, Martin, yes, I am excited for it, yes. All right, last one. I'll go for the very bottom. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Holy cow at these bots. Whoa. I apologize to JCat and Split End for having to deal with this. Because holy cow, the bots are out of control on this chat right now. What up, India? Samir, hi from India. What's up? All right, I'm going to end it here because I can't just look forever for questions. Okay. Here we go. Last one is going to be... I just had one. Eddie Brock, it's the last one. I have another question for you. Do you think there could be a new Marvel vs. Capcom game, or do you think the relationship with Capcom soured with Capcom after Infinite? Not only do I think it's possible, I think you will get a Marvel vs. Capcom game again, because that still has such a hardcore fan base. As we know, Infinite was just a disaster. But I don't think that will scare them off so much that they'll never do it again because it's so beloved. Now, will that be a full-on game? Or, this is one people don't keep in mind, they could do a remake. Like, they could just remake one of the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Keep the inputs and everything pretty similar to what they were. Like, make it still just feel mostly the same, but give it awesome graphics. And the fighting community would eat that up. I think, obviously, people would be more excited about a whole brand new Marvel vs. Capcom game. I think it will happen. I think this is probably quite a way away, though. I think one day it's going to happen, Eddie Brock. That franchise is just way too beloved in the hardcore fighting game community to never come back. But they're going to be all in on Street Fighter 6 right now. which makes sense. Like, you just need to focus on making Street Fighter 6 the best product you can, and it looks like they're delivering. I don't want to say anything, but the entire roster basically leaked. You can find it if you want to. The art design on this one, wow. And the roster for launch, wow. Like, I'm telling you, I wasn't that hyped for Street Fighter 6, and now I'm like pumped for this game. I can't believe how good of a job Capcom it looks like is doing on it. So I think you will get Marvel vs. Capcom, but it's probably a while away. They're going to be all in on Street Fighter 6 for a while, but I think it will happen one day. All right, everyone, I got to go. Thanks for a great chat. Thanks for a great turnout. Thanks for tons of friggin' questions. If I didn't get a chance to get to your question, I really apologize. Just don't have time because I got to go to work. Thank you for all of the super chats. Thanks for being so amazing. Stay safe, everybody. Play some games. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. We do one of these live chats every single week. Like the video if you haven't already. It helps the YouTube algorithm. And follow me on Twitter if you're not. I'm Benji-Sales on Twitter. And I'll see you all soon. All right, everyone? Have a great day, great night, wherever you are. Peace.